Hafide, my fellow Guamanians. Last week I revealed to you that I'll be using my weekly addresses to discuss education reform with you. It's such an important issue because education is the single greatest solution to the poverty that we see today. Quality education is what will take Guam to its greatest heights, economically and as a community. The problems that we see today, from unaffordable living to drug abuse to crime to good health care, can all be solved with reform of the classroom. But before I explain to you the specific reforms that we'll be seeking, it's important to explain to you why reform is needed at all. In August of every year, from 2004 to 2007, our public high schools accepted a new freshman class. Thousands of them had an opportunity to graduate 4 years later. And we did some research. We found that 12,556 young Guamanians entered the freshman class in those years. What happened to them on their journey through high school? Well, according to the graduation data 4 years later, only 6,812 graduated from these high schools. What happened to the other 5,744? These are not just numbers. My fellow Guamanians, these are the 18 to 22-year-olds of today. And of this age group, 3,223 of them are already on welfare. Imagine what struggles they go through. Some of them are young parents. Some, but not many, are at UOG and GCC right now. How do they afford tuition, daycare, the rent, and groceries? I chose this age group because they were the last to graduate over the last 4 years. But the truth is that the education system has been leaving people behind for a very long time. And what I mean by that is that many students are not graduating with the skills and the core competencies that they need to go to college and to start a career. Many of them aren't even graduating. So what does that mean? What does that do? If 98% of graduating seniors are not proficient in the 12th grade math, then what opportunities have we given them to pursue careers as architects, engineers, math teachers, medical assistants, doctors, or nurses? Name a field, and that math applies. Or what about the 86% of graduating seniors who aren't proficient in reading? How do we expect them to learn in college, much less read and write at a level that will get them and keep them employed? Look in the classified sections of the newspaper. Look at the Guam Online Job Bank at the Department of Labor's website. And look at the high numbers of foreign workers that we have to employ. There are a lot of jobs available on Guam. As a matter of fact, when the freshman class of 2004 graduated from high school in June 2008, there were 43,850 private sector jobs on Guam. Today, there are about 3,000 more jobs, and yet unemployment has shot up to over 13%. The problem isn't that jobs aren't available. The problem is that we're not preparing all of our own people with the skills and well-rounded education to get those jobs. Many teachers are trying really hard. Many principals are doing their darndest to provide instructional leadership to their faculty. The problem isn't necessarily the teaching. Good teaching can happen if teachers and principals had access to a common vision, a fair system of accountability, a strong curriculum, teaching tools, and sound professional development. The focus needs to be on learning. And does it really matter how many minutes a student spends in a classroom desk if the student isn't learning? Does the length of a school year matter if the student isn't meeting or passing the curricular benchmarks that says that he is prepared for that next grade level? Does the amount of money pumped into public schools matter if 98% of its 12th graders are leaving that system unprepared for the world ahead? There are pockets of excellence, though. There are stories of students who are learning, and they are globally competitive. There are stories of young Guamanians who have took their education and made something of themselves. But what about everyone else? If the public school mission is to prepare all students for life, then we cannot leave anyone behind. Perhaps it's time for us to consider that the world around us has changed significantly from just a decade ago. Yet the American education system hasn't changed in 100 years. Kids these days don't have to go to the library to find information that they can simply Google on an iPad. The jobs of today require employees to think critically and to solve problems, not to simply just take orders. They need to read at a high level and to comprehend and to make decisions. They need to operate systems and machinery that replace manual labor. Times are changing dramatically, and so must we. Public education needs reform, an overhaul, a new way of thinking about classrooms, or otherwise the cycle of poverty will just continue, and more students will be failed. I'm committed to leading this reform with our stakeholders. Thank you and God bless you.